Hi, my name's Teresa and this is my channel, Homestead Life. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be continuing with the chilies we got from Hatch, New Mexico, and I'm going to can some that are whole. Now I'm going to be using the little jars here. These are what, the pint jars, because I don't need the larger jars of chilies for when I'm making a batch of green chili and that kind of thing. I do have some of the mild, and we're going to go ahead and work with these today. I've got some more in my freezer that I'll work with later, but I just wanted to show you kind of how I do it from this perspective. The first thing that I do is, I always am working with chilies, I put gloves on. You may be able to hear water in my tea kettle going in the background. I don't have a fancy plug-in tea kettle. I'm old school, it's on the stove. And I have some clean jars. The first thing I'm going to do is grab a few of these jars. I have a dirty debubbler, so next best thing to use is a knife. I'm going to go ahead and open these up, and there will still be little pieces of peel and things like that we find, and that's not a problem. We're going to be cleaning this anyway. I've just been doing so much canning. I'm trying to clean things as I go, and so everything is soaking at the moment. So we're all good. Just going to kind of put these in till there's about a 1 inch headspace ish. I say ish because we're going to eyeball it. Like I said, we still have a lot of little pieces of skin that when you're peeling, that's all par for the course, and that's all good. We're going to wipe off the top of these rims, so don't worry too much about it. None of these am I keeping for doing chili rellenos or anything like that. You might wonder, okay, these chilies are not just green. No, they're not. They're actually green and orange and things of that nature, and that is just the way it goes. When I'm peeling these, I do take out the majority of the seeds. And you might go, Teresa, there's a lot of seeds there. Yeah, there's a lot of seeds. There are a lot of seeds. So it's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. When I actually utilize this for a recipe, then I will see if I need to get rid of some of the seeds. The seeds carry a lot of the flavor. And like I said, I'm not going to pack this super full, but I'm going to make sure that there's a decent amount in there. I was just trying to keep enough to do one canning batch. I have a lot more, and I'm going to can some of it, and some of it I'm going to package a little differently with my food saver, and then put that in the freezer. And that's just because I don't have a lot of freezer space. So that's why I do mostly canning. As well, it's more convenient. I don't have to worry about thawing anything out. I just pop it and open and go. This looks like this is going to be just about right. I might need to grab one more, but I'm not sure. And if I can grab any skins that I see, I will, just for the sake of the future. One of the things to note is that you can work with chilies for a few days. It's not like you have to do it all within the day that they're roasted. Obviously, the sooner you get to it, the better. And as long as your chilies don't have like an ammonia scent to them, that's when they're starting to go bad. So if I were to have opened this bag, for instance, which was roasted almost a week ago, and it were to smell not pass the smell test, then I would definitely not be canning them, because I only can things I'm actually going to use. Why go through all the energy and the effort? This is going to be perfect to can something if you're not going to utilize it later. All right, we are good. I'm going to go ahead and put the trash in there. Set this aside. Everything looks pretty decently sized here. They're not perfect. If you wanted to be really perfect about it, you could definitely weigh it out. I'm gonna go ahead and take my gloves off because I'm not gonna be touching the chilies any longer. I'm gonna go grab my water off the kettle. And what we're gonna do is we are now going to fill, rogue hair. We're gonna go ahead and fill to the bottom here, leaving 1 inch headspace. And yes, you're going to want hot water. And I already have the canner prepped and ready to go with the right amount of water in there and some distilled vinegar as well. During this time of year, I can tell you, whenever I'm doing a lot of canning, I get really tired. I enjoy it, I love it, but it can be very tiring because there's a lot going on. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and take my knife, being very careful not to scrape the sides or to chip anything, but I do want to just debubble a little bit. And you'll notice when you debubble that now there's more headspace. So I'm gonna go around and just getting all of the air bubbles that I can. Now I didn't do that with my green chili sauce because that's a liquid. Just like I wouldn't debubble with my, like when I'm doing any kind of liquid sauce of sorts, like my chicken broth or anything like that, I would not debubble with that. And so each one of these I see as I'm debubbling, there becomes more and more room in the jar, and we're gonna wanna make sure, and it's okay if you cut it because I'm not gonna be keeping these whole. I could have diced these, but I don't know what I'm going to use them for later, if I want thinner dice or thicker, you know, more chunky, that kind of stuff. Okay. Up to our 1 inch headspace. And I always think I'm never going to have enough water, but I always do. Whenever I'm canning anything. All right, now I'm gonna grab a paper towel because I want to, sorry, I wasn't as organized as I would have liked to have been. I'm gonna take some vinegar and I am going to wipe around each one of these jars, making sure to get anything off. Now, I could have just used water because, you know, some would say there's nothing oily or greasy, but I like to just use vinegar just to be extra safe and extra cautious, because that will take anything that's, even your oils from your hands. All right, now I have my lids, and again, we're gonna do these just fingertip tight for each and every one of these. Fingertip tight. And uno más. Okay. Let's head over to the canner. Okay, here we have our canner on the stove, and we just have water in there and some vinegar. I'm gonna go ahead and place our jars. And this is warm water. So you always wanna make sure that if you're canning something warm, you're starting with warm water. If you're canning something that's cold, you're gonna want to start with cold water and slowly bring the jars up in temperature so as not to crack anything. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put this in the middle, even though I've got more room. And I am going to turn this baby on and get this going. Since it's already warm, I can go ahead and put the lid on. We're gonna process this for 35 minutes. And so we'll put the lid on. As soon as the steam comes up, we're gonna do 10 minutes where it's basically building up the pressure with the steam. Then we will place our regulator on the top and set our timer for 35 minutes. Now, if this would have been cold going in here, I would have let this warm up slower, but it's not, it's warm. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid on, or so she says. There we go. Has to fit just right. This is our new one. So we're breaking her in. So let's bring this up to our boil, and I will bring you back once we have steam. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see the steam, but it's coming out good. This is popped, so we're gonna go ahead and time this for 10 minutes to let that exhaust. And I've got the timer going. As soon as the timer goes off, we're gonna put our regulator on, and I'll bring you back to that. There's our timer. Put our regulator on, and we're gonna wait for that to start gently rocking. That should happen pretty quickly, or within, a minute or so. And the second that that happens, I will put the timer on for 35 minutes. Okay, here's our gentle rocking motion. So we're gonna go ahead and set the timer for 35 minutes, and I'll bring you back once that time is up. All right, so we have just a little under a minute left processing time. And the timer should be going off for about 30 seconds. So what we'll do is we're gonna go ahead and just leave it sit for 10 minutes before we take the regulator off. Some recipes, when you're canning, may call for you to take that regulator off, but you don't want to do that. You're changing the pressure. So you're gonna just let it do it itself and slowly depressurize. You don't want to take that off unless the recipe calls for it, because you could be creating an issue with your seals or cracking your jars, things like that. So we're just going to do what it says. So now there's our timer, and I'm going to turn the heat off, and I'm going to put the timer on for 10 minutes. And we will check back when the timer goes off. It's been almost 10 minutes. We've got 10 seconds left, and you'll see that the top here, the little pop-up piece, is still pressurized. So 10 minutes just went off. That doesn't mean 10 minutes release it or anything like that. I just let it sit until that pops on its own and goes back down. So let's let it sit, and once that finally drops, I will bring you back and we'll open it up. Okay, so we have everything has been cooled off. It's been a while. I'm gonna go ahead and open this, and everything looks good. Let me bring you in so you can see this a little better. Okay, everything looks good. Now let's go ahead and put this over here to dry, or to actually continue cooling on the towel. The jars have cooled off, and you'll see that some of the liquid has come out of it, which is fine. I'm gonna go ahead and open and check the seals, and then we're gonna wipe them down. So this one is good. I'm gonna check this one. Sometimes these get a little tight. We're good on the seal. I love with these little jars that I can kind of do this little hang test. And I'm not doing it on the side, I'm doing it up here with the lid, or with the topper here. I'm gonna wipe this down. Got a good seal. And if for any reason something doesn't seal, you can just reprocess that. Now I wouldn't reprocess it if it doesn't seal more than once. That's usually when it's like, oh, we'll just go ahead and use it. That one's good. You can also double check by pushing. Like this one I think didn't seal, but the rest of these did, because you can tell it doesn't give when you, but see if you look at this one. So I don't think that one sealed, which is no big deal. We'll just reprocess that. Or I'll put it in the refrigerator and just use it over the next coming days and make something with it. I'll probably reprocess it just because I have enough green chili that I've used recently, or made recently. Okay, there we go, it's hanging. I don't feel as comfortable doing that because I'm a little clumsy with the larger jars, but with these smaller ones, it's almost like satisfying. Okay, because that, if I'm holding onto it like that and it releases the seal, it wasn't a solid seal. Willing to bet this didn't seal because of the pop. I know it didn't. See? So we do have one that failed, and that's not a big deal. I will put a new lid, redo things. Looks like maybe one of the pieces of skin may have got in between the seal area, and maybe that's what stopped it. Who knows? But we'll go ahead and just reprocess this one with a new lid. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Let me know if you have any comments, suggestions, or ideas. I'd love to hear them, and I hope to see you again soon.